While K-pop fans have already had enough with the practice, new one in, old one out, that all entertainment companies use to manage their artists, they still could do nothing but gradually go silent in helplessness, as no one actually cares enough to do something. Because the idol career is always glamorized and young new talents will keep coming in, rather than boycotting the industry, companies still follow the same practice. And that's why, in recent times, many acts are standing on the verge of being dungeoned, while their reputation is still flying high. Number 1. ITZY by NMIXX. Though the debut of NMIXX is said to be utterly underwhelming and left nothing but disappointment in the minds of the public, which is of total contrast to the explosive debut Dalla Dalla of ITZY back in 2019, many still believe ITZY will soon be dungeoned by JYP Entertainment, and history will also repeat itself. As around the time TWICE debuted, Miss A was also left to fend for themselves, despite being one of the top girl groups of Gen 2. While this sounds hard to believe because, eventually, ITZY is still a Gen 4 girl group that has just been active in the industry for 3 years, and each member still hasn't shown their full potential yet, netizens pointed out that there are many solid points leading to such a gloomy conclusion for the group. Firstly, the performance of ITZY has taken a deep nosedive ever since their debut, and for some reasons, their ranks on music charts also keep sliding, ever since the release of Mafia in the Morning. Besides, the appearance of aespa and IVE are also said to pull the attention away from ITZY, and compete with ITZY to be the leading girl group of Gen 4. As if things weren't bad enough, the fire was also fueled when Leah got caught up in a bullying scandal, which resulted in many midseas deciding to leave the fandom, though JYP Entertainment had taken swift legal action to deny all allegations. Besides, some pointed out that the dramatic differences between the budgets for ITZY's MVs versus those for NMIXX also screamed inequality. Of course, it's still hard to tell exactly what will happen down the road, but just by looking at the debut trailer of ITZY and NMIXX, some have already sensed the smell of injustice. Apparently, this doesn't necessarily mean the debut trailer of ITZY was not good, but when compared to that of NMIXX, including the Avenger movie-like trailers, carefulness to details of individual teasers, the massive scale of the project, and the futuristic concept that required an exhaustive budget, well, for ITZY's debut, all they had for the teasers were some ordinary monochrome backgrounds, some basic props, the simplest camera work ever seen, and the gleaming background when the group poses together to cover up the low budget of the set. In fact, netizens even said ITZY was just an experimental group of JYP, and all resources have long been set to only be used for the Black Horse NMIXX. Because even in the pre-debut era, the bias towards NMIXX was already seen clearly. While the company did send Ruchin and Yechi to survival shows, and showcase Chaeyoung a little bit in 16, that effort was nothing compared to the large-scale project Qualifying, where each member of NMIXX had their own little MV to show off the powerful vocal capabilities, groovy dance moves, and alluring stage presence. Basically, though this has never been the situation that midseas wanted to see, they still have to mentally prepare for what is about to come, considering the scary investment of JYP towards the monster rookie NMIXX. Number 2. BLACKPINK by Treasure. Surprisingly, BLACKPINK is also here on the list, though achievement-wise, the group is still leading many categories in the K-pop industry. Things all started after Treasure came back with the heavily invested Jikjin promotion that cost $500 million won, which was around $410,000 US. The determination of YG Entertainment in going big or going home with Treasure this time was also shown through the way they hired Lee Sang-yoon, the former director of Mama, to produce the MV, borrowed lots of expensive cars to highlight the ambition of conquering speed, and especially to prepare various expensive sets as well as costumes, to flex the wild investment of YG. For some, that was extremely good news because Treasure had been on a hiatus for quite some time. But the fact that YG agreed to spend such a whopping amount of money on the group, especially when they had only been in the industry for 2 years, spoke a lot about the boys' potential and talents. However, to many blinks, this was nothing but the sign of a gloomy scenario looming large, where BLACKPINK was dungeoned and taken advantage of to promote Treasure. Some even mocked Treasures, saying that everyone knew where their investment came from. Others expressed discontent when seeing all members of BLACKPINK go on a hiatus for even longer than the time of a male idol serving in the military, while a group like Treasure, who was said to have no salient achievements, received that whopping amount of money for their promotion. Number 3. Red Velvet by aespa. Besides BLACKPINK, Red Velvet is also predicted to soon be dungeoned by SM Entertainment, though for the past years, the group has always been the black horse of the company, with Irene not only standing out in the fashion field but also CFs in acting, Joy, Silgi, and Wendy gaining lots of attention for their duos and solos, as well as Yeri for her promising capabilities in acting and fashion. However, with the infamous tradition of new one in, old one out, and the obvious negligence of SM towards Red Velvet in recent times, including the way they took care of the latest comeback, Feel My Rhythm, of the group, many believe the worst fear of Red Velove's had eventually come true, because the attention of SM Entertainment seemingly has all been poured into promoting aespa. Maybe many of you didn't notice this, but for the latest promotion, the MV of Feel My Rhythm was posted around 10 minutes late compared to the official time disclosed on the teasers, leading to the anger of many Red Veloves, as they believed this was a sign of negligence. Also, fans noticed that Red Velvet only had 5 dance practice videos for a total of 20 comebacks throughout their 8-year career, which are Rookie, Oompa Oompa, Not, Psycho, and Look. Even when the members tried to plead fans and leak some snippets of their dance practice for Happiness, Dum Dum, and Power Up, SM still didn't bother to upload the official ones, and just let things slide like that. However, things are completely different when it comes to aespa, because ever since day one, the company has already recorded and published lots of dance practices for the group. Red Veloves were even more triggered to see that aespa not only had one, but various versions of dance practice for one song, along with various concepts and costumes, and even a video dedicated to the camera work guide. Looking back on this mistreatment, many fans believed this was the reason why Red Velvet couldn't thrive as much as other acts, like Twice and BLACKPINK, though talent and visual-wise, they were all in the same bars. Some even pointed out that SM promoted Red Velvet as if they debuted from a mid-tier company, while everything for aespa screamed money and top-tier management company. As many Red Veloves knew that some may say this example wasn't enough to say that SM was dungeoning Red Velvet, and fans were just blowing things out of proportion, they pointed out another thing SM did to the group to prove negligence. While everyone knows that SM has always wanted to conquer the US market, considering their debuting Super M, investing in NCT, and most recently aespa, somehow the company still turned down lots of collaboration invitations of big records to Red Velvet. For example, back at the end of 2019, aka the time SM started to prepare and promoted Karina and tease the public about the appearance of a new girl group, fans noticed the company completely turned a deaf ear to Nicole Franz, CEO of Capital Music Group, when she said it was her dream to work with an act like Red Velvet at the 2019 Seoul International Music Fair, after watching them perform. What's even more annoying to fans was that SM didn't bother to release any information or music after the collaboration with Phil Quartararo, the CEO of Virgin Records managing Mariah Carey, and Warner Brothers Records managing the Beatles, though he himself had to say that his company was already collaborating with Red Velvet. Number 4. Momoland by T149. Previously famous with the massive hit Boom Boom, Momoland quickly garnered a whopping amount of public attention, and managed to achieve various noble titles. However, as the K-pop race became more bloodily competitive, and the group themselves also suffered from the bullying scandal among members, which eventually led to Daisy's departure, Momoland's reputation took a nosedive, and MLD Entertainment also seemed to give up on the group, as if making Momoland go on an extended hiatus, letting them have a comeback for the show with an extremely low-budget MV, and 0 albums despite the long break, wasn't beyond the limits of fans' tolerance. MLD then even took advantage of Momoland's remaining reputation, printing photos of their new boy group T149 on the back of Momoland's latest photo book. According to fans, this action was nothing but a slap to both Momoland and merry-go-rounds. And despite the fact that the girls used to be the main income of the company, MLD now couldn't even respect Momoland just a little bit. So, as a fan, which case do you find the most frustrating? Do you think these groups will soon be abandoned, as many fans worry? Comment down below to share your thoughts with us. Also, remember to like, share, and subscribe to BeBoss TV for more interesting K-pop content. Thank you for watching.